So exchange rate is an important topic because of its linkages with all other topics. It's linked with inflation, it's linked with international trade, it's linked with policies. In fact, we've been discussing exchange rate in the previous discussion as well. Remember when I said talk about inflation, when I talked about terms of trade, I did talk about exchange rate. So now we formally talk about exchange rate. Um, this topic sometimes some people prefer to do it before other topics because it is about demand and supply of the currency. Nonetheless, once we get done with this, and this topic will actually talk about other linkages as well. So we will have a holistic sort of knowledge about exchange rate. And then next topic will be the last topic, which will be policies. And we hope to cover everything in the next few weeks that we have. We have 3 weeks left now. The 4 mocks, right? 2 weeks. 2 weeks, right? So this topic will definitely come. For the policies, we may think about whether we want to sort of give you policies in your mock or not. I will tell you beforehand, but consider exchange rate definitely coming in your. Consider exchange rate definitely coming. So about the other topic, we'll see where we are, whether we have done enough justice to it in terms of covering it with ease or not. Okay. Sorry. Do we do no? We don't have that luxury. No, I can't. I don't want to. I may want to practice more later on, but honestly, right now we want to sort of focus on getting stuff done, and then practice can come a bit later. Uh, my suggestion is Raza is actually doing a lot of practice. Raza, you are right for the so your full paper, right? Especially data responses. Just get the data responses. Now that we've done with a significant part of macro, some of the inflation and other data responses is something which you can still start trying to. Okay, guys, what is exchange rate? Exchange rate is basically the value of one currency expressed in the form of another currency. For example, £1 is equal to $2. So whenever I'm expressing exchange rate, I'm expressing it in terms of another currency. Like £1 is equal to $2. For example, right now, if I ask you what's the value of rupee in terms of dollar, and the answer is roughly 157, right? So that's basically expressing rupee in dollars or expressing dollar in rupee and so on and so forth. So what is exchange rate? It's a value of a currency expressed in the form of another currency. And when you look at a term that is commonly used for exchange rate is also something called external value of money. So there are 2 terms that you might see in exam. The internal value of money, which is basically called inflation, and then external value of money, it's called, or external value of currency is called exchange rate. Okay, so when you say external value, remember it's exchange rate. Internal value is your purchasing power or rate of inflation. Make sense? When the price level goes up in a country, what happens to your purchasing power? Purchasing power goes down, which would mean internal value of money is going down. Got it? So internal value of money is different from external value of money. Are we good to move on? Any questions? Why are you blocking? I can't see your face. Can you? Yeah. Thank you. So moving on, guys. There are 3 kinds of exchange rate we're looking at. Number 1 is your floating exchange rate, which is where your exchange rate are determined through what we call market forces of demand and supply. So this is your exchange rate where there's no government intervention. Then there is a fixed exchange rate where the government is completely setting it up and deciding the rate of exchange. And then the third one is called managed float, where the government only intervene when it needs to, otherwise they let it be floating. It's also sometimes called dirty float. Another name for it is dirty float. Okay, so floating exchange rate is where a market forces demand and supply determine the exchange rate. So it's an exchange rate that where government has no intervention, versus fixed exchange rate, you'll see government completely decides the exchange rate, versus managed float is in the middle where the government only uh, uh, intervene whenever the exchange rate is too high or too low. Got it? We will start off with the first one called the floating exchange rate. So what's a floating exchange rate? A floating exchange rate is where the value of the currency is determined through the demand and supply of the currency in the foreign exchange market. Okay, so you do not see any government to intervene. There is no government intervention, and the value will be fluctuating given the demand or supply. Okay, so today's discussion will first understand the demand for the currency, then we'll understand the supply of the currency, then we'll bring demand supply together to talk about equilibrium, right? And lastly, we'll talk about what can change that equilibrium. Okay, so that's the agenda for today's discussion to look at. So first, let's look at demand for the currency. Okay, so and I'm going to consider currency being pound. Okay, so for this chapter, we'll assume that we are from the UK and pound is our currency. Okay, so demand for pounds is basically going to be looked at first. If you look at the demand curve, the demand for pound looks like this. On my y-axis, I have pound expressed in dollars, or you can say US value of pound. So I'm expressing pounds in dollar. Sometimes in your exams, you may see pound per dollar also written, uh, but basically US value of pounds. And here I'm going to write quantity of pounds. Okay. Before I make the demand curve, I want to ask you, why would people demand pound? Why would anyone demand a foreign currency or, for example, pound? If they're traveling to UK. If you're traveling to UK, can you take your rupee? And the answer is no, you need to convert your rupee into pound to convert to get that. Also, if you want to buy UK goods, you want to have pound. You are investing in the UK, you need to have pounds. So anytime you buy UK goods, in other words, anytime foreigners are buying UK goods, so demand for pounds comes from the foreigners. Remember, when the foreigners are going to the UK, they will be demanding pounds. And the demand for pounds looks like a downward sloping curve like this one. Okay. And we're saying demand for pound is basically coming from exports. But one thing we need to also understand is this, that uh, if the exchange rate changes, and let's change the exchange rate from E0 to E1. Okay, if the exchange rate goes down, it seems like the quantity of pounds demanded is going up. First thing first, what do we mean by exchange rate going down? Another sort of term to remember, exchange rate going down would mean exchange rate depreciates. If the exchange rate goes down or depreciates, it seems like there's a movement along the curve as I move from point A to point B. But what is E naught, guys? What is E naught? I'm going to write E naught as £1 is equal to $2, right? And what will E1 be? Anyone? Any guesses? What will E1 be given £1 is equal to $2? Is pound becoming weaker? So what should I write? £1 is equal to $1. Who said $1? Good job, $1, because previously for every pound worth of good you were paying $2. Now for every pound worth of good you're only paying $1, which would mean pound is becoming weaker. Depreciate mean pound is becoming, I should write here, depreciate or weaker. Pound is becoming weaker. Okay, so when pound becomes weaker, quantity of pounds demanded goes up. Why am I saying quantity of pounds demanded, and why am I not saying Why am I not saying the demand goes up? Because it's a very good, it's a movement along the curve. And secondly, Madhya is saying, how do we know it's getting weaker? Because look at this, for every pound it was $2, now every pound it's $1. Why am I saying it's $1? Because I want to show that the exchange rate goes down from E0 to E1. By the way, when you go down the y-axis, the value is going down, so pounds value is going down in terms of dollar, because I'm expressing pound in terms of dollars. So this is US value of pound, right? Guys, remember from our older discussion that we had that when the exchange rate goes down, you know, when the exchange rate goes down, your what happens to your exports? Are do they become cheaper, or do they become expensive? They become cheaper. Why? Price of exports will go down as exports become cheaper. And the reason is, guys, look at this. If you were paying for £1 worth of good, you were paying $2 before. Now you're only paying $1, which means for you, the UK good is becoming cheaper. When the UK good becomes cheaper, will you buy more of UK goods? Yeah, isn't that true? So can I say this, that the demand for UK goods will go up, and that would mean quantity of pounds demanded will go up from Q0 to Q1. Does that make sense? So we say this, when the exchange rate goes down, and that, by the way, explains, if somebody asks you why is demand curve downward sloping, if somebody asks you why is demand curve downward sloping for pounds in the foreign exchange market, and you'll say because when the exchange rate goes down, UK goods will become cheaper, and people will basically be buying more UK goods, which means quantity of pound demanded will go up. Make sense? Not only UK goods will become cheaper, travel to UK will become cheaper, tourism will become cheaper, investment in the UK will become cheaper. All of these are reasons why you will be demanding pounds to invest in the UK. Yeah, you will invest more in the UK, probably you will travel more to the UK, and so on and so forth. Right now, the exchange rate is insane for Pakistani. 1 rupee, £1 is equal to almost 200 something. Yeah, so it's, if you take a UK trip, it's going to be super expensive, right? So that's how it is. Any questions about the demand for pounds? Yeah. So what I'm saying is this, that we express in the foreign currency market, I'm expressing pound in terms of another currency in terms of dollar. Okay. I said the demand curve is downward sloping, which means when the exchange rate goes down, quantity of pounds demanded will go up. We need to understand who demands the pound, and the answer is those who live abroad and not in the UK will be demanding this currency. So when the exchange rate goes down from £1 is equal to $2 to £1 is equal to $1, the foreigners who are buying UK goods will now find UK goods to be cheaper. So when the exchange rate goes down, it becomes weaker or depreciates, exports will become cheaper, which means people will be demanding more of UK goods, or traveling more to the UK, or investing more in the UK. All of that would mean quantity of pounds demanded will go up. It's not demand increasing, Madhya, it's quantity of pounds demanded increasing. Remember, pounds, demand for pounds is what we call a derived demand. Why? What do you mean by derived demand? It's not people are demanding more pounds. People are demanding more goods, which require us to have more pounds. Derive का मतलब होता है, derive means basically it's not the good that you derive, you are, it's just that you're demanding something else for which you need to have more pounds to buy that good. If, for example, if I'm a UK brand, if I'm, for example, Next is a UK brand, and let's say you want to buy Next shirt, and you come with rupees to the UK, will I accept it? I need pounds, right? So you need to convert your rupee into pounds to give it to me to buy the t-shirt, for example, from Next. Got it? So the Madhya, does that make sense? It's a derived demand. You need to have pounds to buy more of foreign goods, more UK goods. And why are you buying UK goods? Because UK goods are becoming cheaper when the exchange. Why does exchange rate go down is another question. Why does exchange rate go down? I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. When we bring demand supply together, we're going to sort of bring that together. But are we good to move on? Yeah. आगे बढ़ें बच्चों. Should we move on? Let's look at supply of pounds. Supply of pounds is basically, so guys, a summary of demand for pounds for me, always remember demand for pounds is like exports. So key word to remember is, and anytime UK is exporting goods, people will be demanding their currency. And that's why foreigners demand currency, because when they buy foreign UK goods, they will be demanding UK currency. What about supply of pounds? Who supply pounds in the market? And the answer is UK citizens will have to provide. So let's say if I'm a UK citizen and I want to buy Japanese car, what do? I go to the money exchange, for example, I give my pounds, I supply my pounds to obtain, let's say, yen, and I buy a Japanese car. So you provide your pound to get a foreign currency. In other words, supply of pounds is basically done when you're buying imports. Anytime you're buying imports, if I'm in UK, if I'm a UK citizen, and anytime I'm buying imports, I have to supply my currency to obtain foreign currency. Okay, so demand is by foreigners, supply is by domestic residents wanting to buy foreign goods. Okay, so when you look at supply curves looks like this. This is US value of pounds. This is quantity of pounds. Supply curve is upward sloping like this. And when the exchange rate goes up, I'm saying that the quantity supplied will go up. So E0 was, for example, £1 is equal to $1. And let's say £1 become equal to $2. So my question to you guys is, why is when the pound is appreciating, the word that we use is appreciates or becomes stronger, why would quantity of pounds supplied go up? Any guesses? Who's saying that? Imports will become cheaper. Good job. So why? Look at this. For previously, for £1 you used to get $1 worth of good. Now for £1 you're getting $2 worth of good. Aren't you getting more from your pound? So if the pound becomes stronger, will you find imports to become cheaper? And the answer is yes. Isn't that true? So when the exchange rate goes up from E0 to E1, your price of imports will fall, right, as imports become cheaper. And for UK residents, will buy more of foreign goods, and that would mean quantity of pounds supplied will go up from Q0 to Q1. So remember, guys, it's the appreciation of the currency that made you buy more of the good. Okay, it was not that you wanted to buy more of the good, it's the appreciation of the currency that made it cheaper for you, and then you were like, let me buy more of the good. And you need to bring demand supply together to understand this framework. But first you need to understand is that supply of pounds is when imports are happening, demand for pounds when exports are happening. Who supply pounds? The domestic resident would supply pounds. Who demand pounds? The foreigner would demand pounds. quantity of imports increasing because pound is becoming cheaper. Make sense? Now let's bring it together to understand why is pound why would pound increase or decrease? Because यहाँ पे we didn't discuss the reason why it's going to change. So when you bring it together, guys, we get ourselves. Are we going to move on? When we look at it together, guys, we get ourselves what we call an equilibrium exchange rate. So when you look at equilibrium exchange rate, an equilibrium exchange rate is basically I'm going to make this diagram. Can we make this diagram as well? In my equilibrium, guys, there are a couple of things that I want to explain this, and it's an important thing to remember. I wrote this that demand for pounds is downward sloping, supply for sloping. Look at this. Demand for me is basically exports, but I also wrote inflow. Why did I write inflow, guys? Anyone can explain why? What do you mean by inflow? Goods are going out, but foreign currency will be coming in. Why is foreign currency coming in? Because they're demanding your currency. When they demand your currency, they'll give you a dollar for every time pound that they demand, right? And supply is imports, right? Which means every time you want to buy import, the goods will come to you, but the pound will go to another country. You know, when Pakistan exports a lot of goods abroad, their foreign reserves become stronger because anytime you buy Pakistani good, you give a dollar to get rupee to buy Pakistani good. Make sense? Nahin? You get it? No. So anytime, let's say if I'm selling Pakistani shirt, right, and you let's say you are in the UK, you want to buy Pakistani shirt, you will give me you will convert your pound into rupee to get the shirt, which would mean somebody who has a rupee will get pound, right? So our reserves will go up. Foreign reserves will go up anytime that people are buying more of foreign Pakistani goods. Pakistan foreign reserves will go up because there's a lot of inflow of cash that will happen. Inflow of foreign currency will happen for us, while outflow of foreign currency happen when we are buying foreign goods. Make sense? Are you all with me? Now, guys, what can make demand and supply to change? Let's talk about that because uh, the older discussion was just to make you understand the exchange rate, but actually we don't look at demand alone and supply alone. We would look at both demand and supply. Let's say I do an example. Let's say case number one. UK hosts, let's say, Olympic. How will demand and supply change if UK decides to host Olympic? Anyone? Demand will? Why would demand rise? Foreigners will come to your country. Exactly. Who said that? Demand will rise? Good job. Demand will rise because foreigners will come to your country. Why would foreigners come to your country? Because you hosted Olympic. So if I have demand and supply, demand curve will shift to the right. Isn't that true? And as a result of that, exchange rate will go up. Yeah? Are you with me? So anytime foreigners are buying more of your goods, or they're coming to your country, or there's tourism happening, they're investing more in your country, demand curve will shift to the right. Demand curve will shift to the right, leading the exchange rate to appreciate. You make sense? Any questions about this? Yeah. What about case number two? Let's do case number two. Fall in the value of imports in the UK. What if there's a fall in the value of import? Let me copy this diagram again. Being a bit lazy. Okay, let's say this is your demand and supply. And let's say there's a fall in the value of imports. What will happen as a result of? Are people buying? Are UK citizens buying less imports? Zunubia, yeah. So are UK citizens buying less imports? What is written? Fall in the value of imports. What it seems like. So if UK citizens are buying less imports, what do you think will happen? Demand will change or supply will change? Demand is when foreigners are buying your goods. Supply is when you are buying foreign goods. If you don't buy foreign goods, you don't convert your pound into, let's say, dollar. You don't need to, right? If I'm not buying foreign goods, do I need to convert my rupee into dollar if I'm not going to the US? Maybe yes, if I want to sort of invest later on. Pakistan में होता है ना, आपने convert your rupee into dollars so that your value of money remains intact. If that's not the reason, let's say if I'm not buying foreign goods, for example, I don't need to convert my currency into foreign currency, right? Isn't that true? So if this is my demand supply, supply will fall when I'm not buying foreign goods, supply curve will shift backward. And the exchange rate as a result will go up. Only supply will change. Why? Because it's the UK citizens who decided not to buy foreign goods. So they don't need to the supply of pounds in the foreign market will go down, causing exchange rate to go up. If you want rupee to gain value against dollar, what are the things that we can do? Number one, our demand for goods should go up. Number two, we should buy lesser foreign goods. Both of these factors will make our exchange rate appreciate. Right now, the reason why is Pakistan losing its value, Pakistan currency losing value? Number one, our imports have gone weaker. I'm sorry, our exports have gone weaker, and we buy a lot of imports, causing our X minus M to worsen and our exchange rate to depreciate. Remember, exports go down, demand goes down. Imports go down, this would mean supply goes down, right? So equate exports with the demand for the currency. So always remember this. Exports is the demand for currency and imports is the supply for or supply of. That's the right supply of pounds. Okay, you buy more imports, supply increase. You buy less imports, supply decreases. So can we look at the free floating exchange rate as an endless cycle? No, we don't need to look at it. Very good question. Somebody else also asked me that, okay, now that supply has gone down, exchange rate has gone up, so what will happen next? And the answer will be, for example, let's say, let's say demand for car go up, price goes up, right? And if the price goes up, does that mean people will now buy less of the car? And the answer is, we don't really talk about that. Remember, we stopped when we did demand supply. Do we look at a sort of endless cycle? If demand badegi, to price badegi, so what will happen? We stop there. Similarly here, when the demand for goods go up, exchange rate goes up, but we stop there. We don't really look at, okay, now the demand has gone up and that causes the exchange rate to go up. Will it result in people to equilibrium? Means the market has come to a halt. The quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, and that's why we need to stop there. Got it, guys? Any question? The rest of the cases we'll do tomorrow. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Bye, people online.